All right.
Are we waiting?
Oh, you can go for it.
Oh,
Sorry. If anyone else can I'll let them in.
well, you guys can all tell this is my first rodeo. So I just want to ask for your grace today and being ever so patient with me. But I want to also just thank you for being here, for engaging in conversation and just having this moment, because it's so important right now that we're connecting and we're reaching to our communities, and we're really trying to uncover the truths. And health is a big part of that. It's a huge part of that. It's my daily passion now. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. What brought me here was my oldest daughter. And I always say, she brought me out of my slumbers and made me see the world in a very different light. And so what we're going to be talking today is just basically about the human body. And when we look at the human body, we have to look at it in the universal code, which is simplicity. And the key factor here is that with simplicity, it makes our quality of life better, and it helps our overall longevity. And I think we as humans have we've adapted to just making things so complicated in all aspects of our life, right? And I believe that this complication has led to a deterioration in our health. And we can look at simplicity in a number of ways. We can look at it in our food choices. So, processed food is so far removed from its natural form that it becomes a toxin, a poison to our body. It becomes a foreign invader, and it deteriorates rather than rejuvenates our cells. We look at simplicity in the health department, okay? It's very complicated. Doctors complicate things by labeling everything as dis-ease. So if you break that word down, dis-ease is exactly what disease is in the human body. And unfortunately, the allopathic community has adapted to labeling symptoms and treating symptoms, which never really gets into the root cause. It never aids in healing. It's only suppressing the problem. And our children deserve better. And I'm talking from the perspective of a mom that got the runaround from my doctor, who told me everything my daughter was experiencing, the colic, the loss in sleep, the screaming until she was red and shaking, the loss in bowel movements, telling me that this was normal behavior for a 2-month-old. I just didn't think that was the case, and that's what led me here. The problem here, I believe, is that we have given full control over our health and our bodies to a powerful industry that tells us that our body is the problem, rather than encouraging that our body is in fact the solution. So what is the body really? Okay, we have to look at the body in simplicity if we ever really want to truly understand our bodies. Our body is simply made up of trillions of cells and 2 major fluids, okay? The 2 fluids that consist in our body are blood and lymph. But the interesting thing is that 75% of our body is in fact lymphatic fluid, and less than 25% is actually blood fluid. Yet the focus with the allopathic community is always blood. You rarely hear you rarely hear any conversations concerning lymphatic fluid, which is quite alarming considering that it makes up 75% of our bodies. The toxic burden is always dumped into the lymphatic fluid by the blood in order to buy the body some time. And really the focus should always be helping to clean that toxic burden, which is cleaning the lymphatic fluids. And yet it isn't. Most people don't even know we have an interstitial lymphatic fluid in our bodies. They just believe that we are fully made of blood, which is completely false. It's not accurate at all. But that's a modality that the allopathic community uses when they treat symptoms. So let's talk about cellular health since our body is comprised of trillions of cells. To break this down in simplicity, let's say you have a kidney disease, okay? And your focus is only that your kidneys are damaged. And if we think about this, what are our kidneys made up of? They're made up of trillions of cells. Every major organ in our body, if you break it down and look at it, is trillions of cells, okay? So what we're really seeing here is a set of sick cells or damaged cells in a specific area of the body that's preventing a healthy function because the cells aren't healthy, okay? So what is cancer? Cancer is a sick cell, a damaged cell. We hear this over and over again, okay? What about the EMFs that are all around us? Does anybody ever think about why they call them cell phones or cell towers? Because this type of technology does in fact create cellular damage. I mean, that's been scientifically proven with studies. And with this exposure, you gain a long list of diseases that they tell us, you know, that can be a result of exposure. But what we really have to look at is that it's not a disease, it's the damaging and poisoning of cells, which is creating dis-ease in the human body. So everything is the result of the cells. Keeping the cells healthy is and should always be the primary focus. But it's become so complicated that people are, they get discouraged or they're overwhelmed with their own health. And that's not the way I believe the Creator made it to be for us. So how does iridology play into all of this? I have to just be completely honest. When my daughter first got her iridology read, I thought I was talking to a psychic. That is how accurate it was. It was such a game changer for me. And this individual didn't know anything about my daughter's sensory issues. She didn't know anything about our personal home life. I mean, when she delivered the reading, I thought, it just resonated. This is the way. This is the way that I need to go. And I kind of just ran in that way. And we had tried everything. We had tried electromedicine. We had tried supplements. We had tried everything under the sun. We spent countless hours, money, being just completely sleep deprived, on the verge of divorce, me and my husband, because we were trying to figure this thing out and we felt like we were just running in circles. But I also feel like that's what they want us to feel, so that we don't feel empowered to know that our health is something that it starts in the home, I guess, essentially is what I'm saying. So iridology was actually started in the 17th century, and it was widely used to diagnose ailments in the body. I like to call iridology the universal blueprint that our Creator gifted us. So it can basically, it's an external blueprint that shows us what's going on internally. And if you look at an iris has the irises shoot out from the pupil like a sun ray. So if you look at an iris and you examine it, you see maybe some of the irises are bending, or some of them are curved, or some of them just don't look, they might look damaged. That right there, the separating, the bending, the curving, those can show us, reflect that there's in fact a genetic weakness that's going on in the body. So when we understand genetic weaknesses, we understand how living a cleaner lifestyle can in fact aid in regenerating those weaknesses, because we are meant to regenerate. But the problem is that we're eating foods that do the opposite. They deteriorate our bodies, or we're exposing ourselves to toxins in the environment that are deteriorating our bodies. Or we're walking around, breathing air that might not be as clean as we would like. So we basically live in a chemical soup, and there's all these factors. But I think the main thing we can really do at this point in time is to just focus on leading the cleanest lifestyle that we can. And that gives our children, our spectrum children, or children that might be suffering from some other ailment, the best quality of life possible in this chemical soup that we all have to swim around in. So I trained with Dr. Morris in Florida, not once, but twice, because it was so profound and life-changing for me, the results that my daughter experienced. And at the time that we implemented the treatment, she was just under 3 years old. She was nonverbal. She was doing intensive early intervention therapy in our home 3 days a week. It was a very life-changing moment for me to have this meeting with Ulta and them telling me that my child had a spectrum disorder. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. When you get that news, you just immediately feel like you did something wrong. You blame yourself, life changes in an instant. But, and of course, down the rabbit hole you go, trying to figure out the best possible way that you can care for your children. So for us, that was the Dr. Morris rabbit hole. And when I saw the results after we started to implement the dietary changes and just limiting the toxins in the house that we use every day that we don't even think about, like Windex and all of these other chemical cleaners, deodorant. I'm not saying that my daughter was using deodorant, but you don't think about how many years we're using deodorant that has it's loaded with aluminum or aluminum in our baking powder, baking soda, it's just our toothpaste, which goes into our mouth, it's so toxic. If you look at the ingredients, you think to yourself, they tell you not to swallow it. Those are the things that we have to start thinking about for our children. And those were the changes that I myself personally started to make. And whatever we were doing was so profound that our therapist told us over and over again, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Because my daughter would experience this speech explosion like we had never heard. And there was a point in time when I remember thinking that I might never hear my daughter talk. I didn't know, because her form of communication was screaming. So when she wanted something, she would scream. When she was trying to communicate, she would scream. And that's how she came out, essentially. Her primary form of communication that she adapted to was screaming, because she was in so much pain, she was suffering. So when I saw these changes, and my husband, who wasn't the best believer initially, saw these changes, we realized that this was the way. And I wanted to dedicate my personal life to reading Iridology and helping families to establish their own footprint in what might be determined the way for their family. So that's, why I'm here today. I want to just put it out there. If you guys are lost, just know that you're not alone, and that if you feel like you don't have answers, it's because you might be looking in the wrong place to gain those answers, or asking the wrong questions to the wrong people. But there is an entire community of people that are here to support you. And I would gladly offer services to do any readings for anyone that might be suffering at this time, and try to help you get a somewhat decent quality of life back. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not saying my daughter is fully healed. It's a work in progress. We still have a way to go, but that's how the body works. It does take time to regenerate. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, and you have to work at it every day. But that's the commitment you make, because you see how complicated life is on one side of things, and that it is a dead end. And that dead end is the definition of insanity, because you're basically doing the same thing every day, hoping for different results. And that dead end is not going to get you those results. So with that being said, I would like to pass it off to my very good friend, someone who I actually found on this journey. At the last Dr. Morris I went to, she came up to me and she said to me, I'm a huge fan. I saw your post on Instagram and I just love her to death. She is a great person. She understands. She has an older child with ASD diagnosis, and she's just amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it off.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, you did such an awesome job, Heather. And I'm really just excited to be on this journey with you. I feel like just to be presenting something together with you is in and of itself a manifestation for me. Because when I found you, which was probably less than a year ago. Like, it's so crazy how much can happen in a year. I found you probably less than a year ago. I was like, oh my God, another autism mom doing this. And before I knew it, like, we went, well, Noam, my son, he's been fully raw for like almost a year now. I've been to Dr. Morse, and I believe in this so much. And you're living proof, like you're a testament that this is real and it works. So it's just really cool to connect and collaborate with you on this subject. So, Heather went through a little bit about the health side of what's going on with our kids. And I think it's really interesting how so many of our families are into alternative methods, but so many of them don't go down the most like basic and fundamental path of like detoxification. I mean, they do, but they do it
Mm-hmm.
in a different way. Like they're not, they're doing, using a lot of supplements and a lot of like, and what seems like the most basic fundamental level of detox would just be like return to your roots, like fruits
Yeah.
and veggies, and so many of our, there's millions of diets, and so few people I feel actually explore this path. And when I found this, it just like made sense to me. So we don't have any miracle breakthroughs yet, but I really do believe in this, and we're going to stay on this path. So so she covered the health side of things, and then I wanted to talk about money. I think it's something that's not really spoken about like nearly at all in our community. And I realized that firsthand being a single mom, like trying to figure this all out on my own. And so a little bit about my story is that I got married super young. I got married at 21 and was financially dependent on my ex-husband for everything. We had kids really young, had my firstborn son at 23, which was Noam, who's now 12. And like, as life went on and the stresses and the demands and autism, like you mentioned you guys almost got divorced. Like, I think that I've read a statistic, the divorce rate is like 90% in the autism community. I don't know if it's true, but I think it's very high. It's definitely higher than the regular divorce rate, which is already high. So here I am like on my own, and I'm like, oh gosh, I've never fended for myself in this world. And not only am I fending for myself, but I'm fending for two kids, one of them who has like very extreme needs. And I obviously wanted to provide the best that I could for him. And I started to notice this like paradigm in the autism community where I would have, because I was involved with a lot of online groups and friends and collaborations, and I was seeing these families who had 2-income households, living really comfortable lifestyles, and their kids were making progress faster. And it started to piss me off. And I was like, they can afford to do this therapy. They can afford to go see that doctor who charges $500 an hour. And you have to go back like 100 times, and plus all the labs, plus all the supplements. And that was just like one rabbit hole, let alone all the millions of rabbit holes that we all try. So money started to become really important to me, and I didn't have any. And they say like money's not everything, but it really is when you don't have any. It really is. And especially when you have this big why, you have this child that you would do anything for. So I was doing health coaching before, even before I found Dr. Morse or any of that stuff. I was doing health coaching because I was already into the holistic side. I already knew, nutrition was a big piece for our children. And so I was coaching autism moms, but I wasn't able to earn enough doing that. And so I just like prayed. I like just straight up prayed. I started doing a lot on, reading on spirituality, metaphysics, law of attraction. And I'm reading like abundance is our birthright and we're designed to thrive. And I would be like telling my coaching clients, like these autism moms, yeah, we're designed to thrive. And they're all single moms and they're all struggling financially too. And then I'd get off the call and I'd go back to like being broke, and they'd go back to their lives. And I almost felt like a fraud. Like I felt like I'm not able to help these people enough. So I started setting this intention. I wanted to master the money game. I wanted to learn the rules of the game. And I was a very, very big believer in the law of attraction and in the universal laws of the universe. And so I just sort of set that intention, and literally within like a week, I was introduced to the business that I'm in now, and I was introduced to a millionaire. And basically, I was able to create a relationship with him, and he took me under his wing and basically taught me everything that he learned to create this thriving business. And it's a business working in the financial industry, which was an industry I had zero experience in and was super intimidating. But I was motivated by the fact that A, I could help my son and have higher income so we could create the life that he deserved. And B, I could help other families achieve financial independence, specifically in the autism community, because I saw it all around me is people really, really, really struggling, having to refinance their houses to pay for biomed, and just like, it didn't seem right. So I'm going to go through just like a few concepts, but my real offering at the end of this, which kind of similar to Heather, so luckily, so this is my business, this is how I earn income. But luckily, when I helped a client, I get paid by, the various financial institutions that I'm working with. So I don't ever have to charge the client either. So my services are totally free. I work, and no matter how many meetings we have, I never charge a client. And my goal is to help people kind of transition from being this family who's like broke paycheck to paycheck, never getting ahead, not saving money, doesn't really know the first thing about money, doesn't have a financial professional, maybe has credit card debt, rents their house, that type of family. I want to help them transition to being a more financially independent person who, owns their assets, has a portfolio, maybe can even earn additional income, and is building wealth and achieving financial independence, because we just have so much on the line. And it's both while we're alive, and then the scarier topic that like no one wants to talk about, and I don't even want to think about it still, is like what happens when we're gone. And like my son is 12, and I'm praying with every part of my being that he fully recovers, and I still believe he will, and I hold out for that every single day, and I'm never quitting till I die, that's possible, because I know it's possible, because there's so many examples around me. But at this very moment in time, like based on the way he is today, he will never be able to care for himself. And so I have to consider that realistic physical reality, as well as like what happens when I'm gone, who's going to care for him, based on what money, right? So first of all, I'm really motivated to make a lot of money in this lifetime so I can leave that behind, but also there's certain protections that need to be in place to leave him. So when I typically talk just general concepts, there's kind of like 4 cornerstones, I think, to building wealth. So the first one is protection. So especially for the autism community, protection is like more important than even the average family, which is basically, if while you're living or when you die, how do you replace your income? So while you're living, if you become disabled, if you need in-home care, if you need a nurse, how do you replace your income? And once you pass, if you have this child that may theoretically live 30 or 40 years longer than you, how do you leave enough money behind for that person, right? So the main ways of protection that exist in the financial industry is, different insurances. So there's disability insurance, there's long-term care insurance, there's life insurance. Now the industry standard rule for life insurance, like how to calculate how much life insurance you should have, is your life insurance policy should pay off your debt, should replace your income for 10 years, pay off your mortgage, and leave money behind for educational expenses. Leave money behind for 10 years is great if you're a family with neurotypical children who are going to be out of the house in 10 years. But if you have a kid that you're going to have to support for potentially 40 years after you're gone, you're going to need a much bigger policy, right? And so then when we're talking about insurance, there's 2 main types. There's term and there's permanent. So term insurance, the benefit of term insurance is that it's very affordable most of the time, assuming you're in, decent health. However, it expires, right? So it's still a little bit of a gamble, because the longest term policy that I'm aware of is 30 years. So if you're 40 when you take it out, it expires when you're 70. You probably will still be living at 70. So that's kind of the downside of term. Permanent insurance is for your entire life. And so that's kind of what we all want to have, but it's very expensive, right? So just like this is an oversimplification, it's not really this simple, but just like as a general kind of framework to give you an idea, for every $100,000 of coverage is about $100 a month for permanent, right? So if you needed a $3 million policy, that would be like on average $3,000 a month, right? So obviously it can be very costly. So that's where you want to sit with someone, and I'm happy to help, or if you have someone, that's great, to kind of calculate what's realistic with your budget and how much you can afford so that you have that in place. So that's kind of protection. And then also long-term care and disability, because what happens if like you become disabled and you need help, you know, and you're caring for another person on top of it. So you want to have the income at least to relieve the financial burden in that scenario. Okay, so second concept that I like to talk about is growth. This is where we want to have our money working for us while we're alive, because we have to maximize the time that we have here. We only have so long here to grow our money. So what most people do is they put their money in the bank and then it just sits there and maybe gets less than 1% of interest, and mathematically they'll never become financially independent that way. But if they put their money in an interest bearing account that grows with interest, their money will multiply. And I saw before Beth quoted Albert Einstein, which was the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result, which is what Heather was talking about. So Albert Einstein also regarded this rule that I'm going to share with you. It's a mathematical formula as the eighth wonder of the world. And that rule is the rule of 72. And the rule of 72 is basically a rule that you can use to calculate how quickly your money will double. So basically you divide your interest rate by 72, and that tells you how many years it will take for your money to double in that account. So let's say you had an account that had a 10% interest rate, 72 divided by 10 is 7.2. So your money in that account is doubling every 7 years, which gives you a shot at building wealth while we're here. Versus if you put all your money in the bank and you have 1% even, it's going to take 72 years for your money to double in the bank. And we just don't have that kind of time. And for our community, we really don't have that kind of time. So that's why it's so important to invest. And that's where you want to sit with a financial professional to help you know where's the best place to invest. Okay. Another part of growth is like the different ways that your money can grow. So your money can grow fixed, which is in the bank, no growth. The second way your money can grow is in a variable account, which is like in the stock market. And the benefit of that is you could have very high growth. However, the downside of the stock market is that you could lose a lot of money. And if any of you have money in the stock market, you know that this month, because we just had one of the worst crashes we've seen in the last 30 years, right? So what good is it if you spend 10 years building wealth that if in 1 month you could lose like a third of it, right? So that's where you also want to understand your risk tolerance. And then there's actually a third way that your money can grow, which is in an indexed account. And this is actually less well known by a lot of people, but it is offered through insurance companies, through life insurance, and also through certain types of annuities, where you can have your money grow with the growth of the market, but it kind of like has a stop whenever the market corrects. It locks in the gains and you can't lose money, right? So there's actually indexed strategies also so that you're safely growing your money without any losses, because risk is real, right? And then lastly, the last concept that I wanted to go through is taxes. Actually, second to last, two more concepts. So taxes, right? So there's actually 3 different ways we can be taxed. We can be taxed now, we can be taxed later, and we can also be tax exempt. So most of us are familiar with, you know, making money, paying taxes, right? Taxes every year. Then some people have their retirement in a tax later or tax deferred account, which is basically where instead of paying taxes now, you defer taxes. So your money's growing with interest for like 30, 40 years. And then when you're at retirement and you want to go take the money out, you're paying taxes on that instead. So if it's kind of like if you were a farmer, would you rather pay taxes on your seeds or would you rather pay taxes on your harvest? Right. So when most people are asked that question, they say, I'd rather pay taxes on my seeds, but yet most people put their retirement in tax deferred accounts where they're paying taxes on their harvest, right? So not saying good, bad, just important to know that that's pre-tax dollars and you might be able to be in a more tax advantaged position, because every single penny that we can stretch will help our family have more wealth for things for our children. And finally, tax exempt, there's certain buckets where you can basically take after tax dollars and invest and keep the growth, right? So that's where you know, things like a Roth IRA or actually also cash value life insurance is tax free, right? So this is one of the best kept secrets of the wealthy, especially life insurance. Where else can wealthy individuals invest unlimited amounts of money and have tax free growth, right? So that's again some of the things I help people when we do a call, and we kind of look at what you have going on, and and if you have nothing going on, that's fine too. I can help you start something, because that was where I was. I had no life insurance, I had no savings at all, not even an emergency fund. I had no retirement. And so it's fine if you have nothing, you can start from somewhere. But if you do have something, you might want to have a review of what you have and see if there's a way you could be more tax advantage, or your money could be growing more safely, things like that. So the last thing I want to talk about is estate planning, and it's especially important for our community. And basically, the reason it's important is that you know, a lot of people don't realize that if you leave a lot of money behind, or assets behind for your children, if you don't have that in a separate entity, and your child is the recipient of that money, when you die, your kid now no longer qualifies for any of their current benefits through the government. So whether if you're in California, if you get IHSS, if you get, you know, Medicare, SSI, like all of the, and even therapies, you know, regional center, all the stuff that's income based, all of a sudden your kid comes into a lot of money from a life insurance policy you left them. If it's not in a separate entity, they actually lose everything, which would be just devastating, right? So that's why it's so important to have an estate plan where you have a special needs trust, and it's basically a separate entity where you funnel the money to the entity as opposed to your child. It has a legal bearing, and you assign all sorts of stipulations exactly the way you want. So you have a trustee who's the one that's, you know, entrusted to pull the money out, and you provide it for your kid for the things that you want them to have it for. And also, like, all the important stuff about like nomination of guardianship, like, oh my gosh, like, who do you actually trust to care for your child? If your child has other siblings, like, they're probably going to be a part of that, but you have to have like backup on backup on backup. I have like so many backup people in my trust, because I just don't trust anyone, but I have to come up with who could I possibly trust in the event of this like horrific thing happening, right? So you don't want to leave that to chance, because then your kid becomes a child of the state, and that would be just the worst thing I think any of us could ever fathom. So really important, not just to have the protection in place, not just have the savings, but also to create that trust. There's a couple ways you can do that. Best is really to just have an estate planning attorney sit down with someone in your local area, if there's someone you already know and trust. If there isn't, I'm happy to make some referrals. I probably have like 5 people I could recommend, at least in California. And if not, I can help you find someone in your state if you're not in California. But just most attorneys are reasonable. Most attorneys understand how much our community struggles. Most attorneys will work with you when it comes to payment. And it's life, you know, it's life or death. Like, you need to have that. It's not even a question. It shouldn't even be something that you think twice about. So kind of like my last sort of my call to action is, if anybody's interested, there's only a few of us on this call, but we're going to have this replay and we'll share it all over on social media. So if anyone watching this live or later on would like to book a call with me, I actually just set up a website to connect to my calendar, which is very simple. It's just, I'm just making sure. It's just bookleia.com. So book and then my name, which is Leia, leia.com, and it just goes straight to my calendar, so you can see like when I'm available. I do a free consultation, free portfolio review. I can make referrals to anyone that, you know, also I can help people with debt. So there's like several ways I can help someone. One is when we look at income versus expenses, we can see if there's a way to help manage expenses better, budget better a little bit, right? If anyone's looking to earn extra income, my company's actually always looking for people. So that's another way I could help you, is how to earn extra income. Next is debt management. So if you have debt, I had a lot of debt before. right? So I wasn't able to save because everything that I had at the, by the end of the month, everything extra was going towards old credit card debt. So I can help you actually consolidate and settle your debt so that you have more money left over to put towards savings or to put towards insurance. So your stuff is in order. Also, emergency fund is really important, that you have 3 to 6 months of income saved in case of an emergency. A lot, there's so many potential emergencies that our community could have. I don't even need to list them. So it's just important to have money like right now, what we're in right now with this whole pandemic is an emergency. A lot of people got laid off. A lot of people don't have income. So that's why you want to have that cushion there, in case of loss of income, job interruption, whatever, where you have 3 to 6 months buffer of income. So if you don't have that set up, I can talk about how to start that. Proper protection. So that's where I calculate how much insurance you need, what types of insurances are affordable for you, and we can do a blend of term and permanent, make it work like the best that we can. Then help you with savings and investments. If you want to move your money into more safe growth strategies, index strategies, we can talk about what options exist for that and how much you actually have to have saved up to become financially independent. And then finally, the estate preservation. So I can make referrals to attorneys. I also have a third-party company that I do work with that's like more affordable. It's a little bit less customized, but it is a better option than just doing nothing. So that's pretty much it. So just go to bookleah.com if you want to book a call with me. And thank you guys who are here on the call for joining us live. And I hope that this message can get out to so many people, because I think both, Heather and I are coming from, I just saw sorry, Heather, I didn't realize you got locked out. I'm so sorry. I was talking. So sorry. But I think we both are just coming from that pure place of being in our community and knowing the challenges that our community faces and wanting to make a difference and wanting to help people and provide value every way we can. So yeah, hopefully you guys will spread the word. And I think that's it. That's all I have to say. Heather, I'm so sorry you got locked out. Did you want to add anything? Because we're wrapping up. She's connecting to audio. Thank you, Bree, for joining us. Thanks, Beth. Appreciate you guys both. I don't know if she's coming or not, if her audio will let her work. I don't know. Give her another minute. Yes, Beth said families need to hear this. Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. Thank you. Yes. Yes. All right. I think Heather is from a place of what's real. That's true. I know what's real. Trust me, I know what's real. It's probably better than a lot of people. So no, we all do. We all do. So, but I know, I know. All right. Well, I'm going to end the meeting. I think Heather's having some technical difficulties to connect. So, but you guys got to hear her great message. And thank you guys for joining us. And reach out anytime to either of us. And oh, by the way, I don't know if she mentioned, so I'm going to just plug her real quick. If you want to get in touch with Heather, you can reach out to her. She said the best way is through her Instagram, which is, her handle is The Homemade Hippie. And I believe that's IE at the end. She's also Heather Leanne on Facebook. Oh, Heather, you're back. Okay, I was plugging you. I'm on. There you go. Sorry. Okay.
I just lost connection at my house. That's what happened.
No worries.
Yeah.
I was just telling them the best way to get in touch with you.
Oh, okay. So the best way to get in touch with me is going to be on probably my Instagram page, The Homemade Hippie. If you guys don't have Instagram, you can also find me on Facebook. I have a business page there, The Homemade Hippie. And I do have a website, www.thehomemadehippie.com. And then my personal email address, if you just want to send me an email, is thehippiehheather@gmail.com.
Amazing. Love it. And she has some amazing raw recipes. Like I always go on her page and I'm like, oh, I want that juice. I want that smoothie. So it's good.
I'm on a
It's
juice fast right now. I love juicing. Juicing is my life. I share lots of recipes. I used to own a mobile business, juice business. So it's definitely my passion.
yeah, you're glowing. I can tell. You got that raw juice glow.
I got the quarantine glow.
Oh my gosh. Amazing. Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to end the call. Is there anything else you want to say before we hop off?
No, I just want to thank everyone for their time and being here, and just want to say that it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. I have faith in my heart, and I know it's a scary time for a lot of people and there's a lot of uncertainty in the world, but I just have complete faith that it's going to be okay.
Yes. It's a good message we all need to hear. Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Amazing. All right. Cool. I'm going to end the call, but I
I
will.
love you, friend. Thank you for putting this together.
Yes, I love you too. Thank you for collaborating.
Yes, absolutely. And everyone have a great day.
Yes. Have a great day, ladies. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.